questions, please put them in the chat and we'll try to get to them throughout the course of the session today. For those of you that I haven't had an opportunity to meet, my name is Don Ferguson, and I'm pleased to have recently rejoined the Chamber of Commerce here in Sault Ste. Marie as its Director of Operations and Policy. I was with the Sault Chamber for almost 20 years, and I've recently returned after being away for about 2.5 years, working with another local not-for-profit organization. If we haven't had the opportunity to meet, I hope that we can at some point. If you see me at a Chamber of Commerce event or out and about in the community, please don't hesitate to introduce yourself. As we begin today's session, I want to acknowledge that while we are meeting virtually today, the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce operates on the traditional, territorial, and ancestral lands of the Ojibwe people from the Garden River and Batchewana First Nations. To the Anishinaabe people, this sacred and spiritual place has been known since time immemorial as Boating. This particular location is very near to the actual site where the Robertson-Huron Treaty was negotiated and entered into in 1850. And it's incumbent upon all of us to learn more about the treaty and especially our roles in it. Only then can we truly honor the original people on this part of Turtle Island as we recognize their homelands in the spirit of partnership and reconciliation. Thank you for joining us today for this important session on funding opportunities through the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation. Here in Northern Ontario, we know that economic growth doesn't happen by accident. It requires strategic investment, strong partnerships, and a deep understanding of the unique challenges and opportunities in our region. That's where the NOHFC plays a critical role. For decades, the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation has been the cornerstone of regional development, supporting businesses, municipalities, Indigenous communities, and organizations as they invest in projects that create jobs, strengthen infrastructure, and drive innovation. From helping small businesses scale to supporting workforce development, to investing in community infrastructure, NOHFC funding has had a tangible impact in communities like Sault Ste. Marie and across the North. Today's webinar is an opportunity to better understand how these programs work, what's currently available, and how you or your organization can access this support to move your projects forward. We're pleased to be joined by representatives from the Ministry of Northern Economic Development and Growth, who will walk us through the programs and be able to answer your questions. But before we dive in, we do have a message from the Honourable George Pirie, Minister of Northern Economic Development and Growth.
Hello, everyone. I'm George Pirie, Ontario Minister of Northern Economic Development and Growth. Communities across the North are closely connected, and when one community faces challenges, we all feel it. Sault Ste. Marie has shown tremendous resilience, and today's session is about supporting that strength. Through the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, our government is making strategic investments to help northern communities raise their competitiveness, expand into new markets, and create opportunities for good-paying jobs. Our team is here to walk you through available funding streams and how to access them to help local organizations move forward with confidence. Together, these programs are designed to ensure communities like Sault Ste. Marie can build toward long-term success. I encourage you to listen, ask questions, and explore what may be possible. If you have a project or an idea that can create jobs and drive new opportunities, then the NOHFC is ready to help. Let's get started.
Thank you to the Minister. I'm going to turn things over to our team from the Ministry of Northern Economic Development and Growth and allow them to introduce themselves as they move through the program. So take it away, team.
Thanks so much, Don. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone today. My colleague's just bringing up the deck for us. Yes, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Our minister just shared with us that message, and we're excited to share with you the various programs available through NOHFC that could potentially support your organization or your business as you continue to operate in the region. Slide 2, please. So we are the Ministry of Northern Economic Development and Growth. We are located throughout the region of Northern Ontario, and we populate 23 individual locations with area offices and have main team offices in 5 locations in the region, being Kenora, Thunder Bay, Timmins, Sault Ste. Marie, and Sudbury. Our role is to assist clients in accessing the funding programs of the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, in addition to other provincial programs available. We are here to offer you guidance and strategic advice. So please engage with your local Northern Development Advisor early and often as you're developing your projects and considering applications to NOHFC. We are here to help. Next slide, please. So our support extends to clients both in the public and private sectors. We cover an area that branches all the way from the Muskoka region to the Manitoba border and as far north as the James Bay coast. The programs operate on a continuous intake basis, so there's no intake deadlines that you need to manage, and they're supported through an annual allocation of $110 million that's spread across the various funding programs. Next slide, please. So these programs are designed to promote economic development in the region. So what does that mean? Certainly job creation is what everyone thinks of when discussing economic development, but there's really so much more to it. Sector diversification and growth projects that we typically see from some of our private sector clients. These assist and promote a more sustainable future for businesses in the region, and expansion of the local industrial markets. Community investments that make Sault Ste. Marie and the Algoma region a great place for people to want to live. These types of investments help our private sector employers attract and retain their workforce. And then events that draw visitors to increase stays in our local hospitality sector and boost our tourism products. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Rob Lepore, to start to describe some of these programs in more detail. Rob?
Thanks, Christy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rob Lepore. I'm a Northern Development Advisor located right here in Sault Ste. Marie. So I'll just go through our suite of Invest North programs and offer a little bit of insight and details on it for everyone. So slide number 7, please. So the Invest North program assists with the launch of new businesses and growth and expansion of existing businesses in Northern Ontario. And they can be broken down into 5 separate program areas. Launch, that's our new business investment program. Grow, locate, tile drainage, and innovation. All of the programs are designed to support business productivity, innovation, competitiveness for Northern Ontario, generate revenue growth, and with a focus on projects that have an element of job creation and retention. The launch program is designed for businesses with 6 months or less into revenue generating activity. NOHFC can provide a conditional contribution or grant up to 50% of total eligible project costs to a max of $200,000. With both launch and grow, we do allow stacking with other programs. So primarily federal government funding programs, we do allow applicants to apply to both and receive grants or loans towards the overall total eligible project costs. The grow program are for established businesses that have been in operation for 2 years or more. Generally, that seems to be the starting point. NOHFC can provide a conditional contribution only of up to 20% of eligible project costs to a max of $400,000, or a loan of 30% of eligible costs up to a max of $600,000. Slide number 8, please. The Locate program is designed for businesses that are wishing to either locate or relocate to Northern Ontario. They can already be in operation elsewhere. A conditional contribution or a combination of a grant and term loan up to $5 million. Combined stacking cannot exceed 50% of eligible project costs. So if you're stacking with, say, a FedNor application. All applicants to this program are required to have a pre-consultation session with an NOHFC advisor because these applications generally have a lot of moving parts. For instance, you do have to be legally entitled to work and operate in Canada. For instance, if you're a business that's from overseas, that process is not facilitated by the province, and the applicants are required to have their due diligence completed before applying. The tile drainage program, generally, a typical scenario for this application could be a farm consortium applying on behalf of an individual farm. Again, NOHFC can provide conditional contributions up to 50% of the tile drainage contractor cost to a max of $500 per acre, 100% of project management and administration fees of the service provider, which is calculated as 10% of the contractor costs to a max of $100 per acre. Max investment does not exceed, from NOHFC, does not exceed the lesser of 50% or $1 million towards eligible project costs. Not prevalent in our area, but there are some farms that have taken advantage of this. And the innovation stream is a conditional contribution supporting the following. For applied research and development projects, 50% of eligible costs up to $500,000. For applied research and development and demonstration and commercialization, 50% of eligible costs up to $2 million. Demonstration and commercialization only projects, 50% of eligible costs up to $2 million. Thanks. Eligibility for the Invest North programs are pretty similar throughout. Generally, eligible projects, activities, and associated costs include but are not limited to capital construction, leasehold improvements, new or used equipment, whether purchase or lease, land servicing costs in relation to the project. So for instance, if you're purchasing equipment that needs to be commissioned, that would be a part of the eligible project cost. Information and communications technology investments. Marketing can be included for new products and businesses, but that is limited to a max of 20% of all other eligible project costs, or $75,000 total, whichever is less. Training costs incurred with third parties limited to a max of 20% of all other eligible project costs. An example of that is a purchase of equipment that requires training through the vendor. These are typically business-to-business projects, expansion equipment upgrades to drive production, increase competitiveness in the north. Ineligible costs. Ineligible projects, I should say. Costs and activities include but are not limited to retail and consumer service businesses that primarily earn revenue by providing products and services directly to individuals. Accommodations and food service businesses and related business activities. Some tourism-related resorts and the like may be eligible under Invest North. Rolling stock such as cars, trucks, or mobile equipment, project management costs, cost of inventory, purchasing of existing businesses, or land acquisition are all ineligible. The application process is a two-stage process for these programs, with the exception of tile drainage. Stage 1 applications are used to evaluate the potential project eligibility once an applicant moves past that stage. If deemed eligible, they're required to provide a second stage application. And that application is a fairly lengthy and comprehensive application process. It is also reviewed by our third-party provider, Deloitte, for a more in-depth financial analysis and risk analysis. Grow projects have 4 intake rounds throughout the fiscal year, and launch, the stage 2 application is required to be submitted to the ministry within 60 days of initial eligibility. Stage 2 grow applications are evaluated in a competitive round with, sorry, I had mentioned that, 4 deadlines throughout the year. And again, locate applicants are required to have a pre-consultation with a Northern Development Advisor prior to their initial application. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. So the next program that we're going to describe today is our People and Talent Program. So the People and Talent Program is really one of the most accessible programs through NOHFC. It's a quick one-stage application with a really high approval rate. And this program can generate meaningful real-time support to employers in a relatively short time frame. It offers some flexibility for your business planning as well, but NOHFC understands that staffing costs are a huge pressure for organizations both in public and private sector, and this funding program in particular is available to the broadest range of applicants. Next slide, please. So this funding program includes 2 distinct streams promoting workforce development. In the last year alone, 2025 alone, this program supported 106 internships in the region. The program is designed to support employers looking to fill full-time positions for a 1-year period. And for the purposes of NOHFC, full-time is considered anything over 35 hours per week at a minimum. Next slide, please. So applicants must have at least 1 full-time employee in order to submit an application to this program. There's no remote or hybrid work permitted. This program is designed to provide on-site experience with direct on-site supervision for an intern. And in terms of what is not eligible position-wise, basic clerical positions, entry-level retail frontline food service, and manual labor positions requiring nominal training are not eligible. This program will allow an employer to foresee the need for a position a few months to 6 months down the road, submit an application to NOHFC, and as it moves through the evaluation stage, assuming you subsequently receive an approval for that position, you have a year to hire against that position. So it really affords that flexibility to employers to anticipate job needs in the future and have a funding program pre-approved and ready to go to fill a position based on the needs of your organization. Because it is a reimbursement-based program, it is low risk. So until you've paid your staff member, you would not be eligible to submit a payment claim. So if anything happens, the needs of your organization change, and you elect not to proceed with filling a position, you simply let us know. We rescind the approval, and you're welcome to reapply once the needs of your organization change. Next slide, please. So let's talk about candidate eligibility. So previous versions of this program required someone to be a recent graduate, and NOHFC changed the rules back in about 2020 to allow for a far broader pool of candidates to be potentially eligible under this stream of funding, which is a huge advantage both to the workforce and the employers. So in order to be a candidate for a people and talent supported position, applicants or eligible candidates need to be either a new entrant to the workforce. So this is that segment that would be considered new grads that we're used to. So typically seeing a graduate within the last 2 years, or they have to be an individual transitioning to a new career or coming from a period of unemployment or underemployment and entering a new field. So say, for example, someone was working part-time in a hospitality sector and is looking at a full-time position in an administrative role in an office setting, for example. That would be an example of someone transitioning to a new career or coming from a period of underemployment and entering a new field. The next must is they cannot previously have been an NOHFC funded intern. So you're eligible to participate in one internship as an applicant, and then that's it. They must be at least 18 years of age. They must reside in and legally be entitled to work in Canada, and they must reside within commutable distance to the position, as that on-site attendance is mandatory. And then the final criteria is exclusive to our Indigenous workforce development stream of funding. Candidates applying to those positions must identify as an Indigenous person, including First Nation, Métis, or Inuit. And there's no proof per se required for that. There's simply an attestation that the individual identifies as Indigenous. Next slide, please. So funding levels. Both public and private sector applicants are eligible for funding under the 2 streams of this program. So starting with the Indigenous workforce development stream. So public sector applicants, those are the not-for-profits, the municipalities, charities, for example. Those positions are supported up to 90% of salary to a maximum of $35,000 per year. Now, private sector applicants, the for-profit businesses, have an opportunity to get 75% of the salary for the position supported, up to a max of $52,500 per year. And then in the workforce development sector, again, public sector applicants are eligible for 90% support for the salary, up to a max of, again, that $35,000 a year. And then the businesses in the workforce development funding stream are eligible for support of 50% salary, again, up to the max of $35,000 per year. Next slide, please. So the next the next segment of the funding available through NOHFC that I have for you today is the Community Enhancement Program. So this program is only available to the not-for-profits, municipalities, and First Nation communities, and it's designed to support projects that create economic development opportunities within the region. So next slide, please. So the program has streams for communities regardless of population size. It has one for communities less than 1,500, one for communities that are specifically between the range of 1,500 and 30,000, and then a stream of funding that has a bit more support available to access for those larger projects, regardless of the size of community. Next slide, please. So for communities that are very small, rural, less than 1,500, eligible costs under the program can be supported at a level of 90% to a max funding amount of $200,000. Those communities that fit in the range of 1,500 to 30,000 residents have access to funding at 75% up to $500,000. And then all communities are eligible for funding of 50% up to $2 million for those larger projects. Next slide, please. So what type of projects are supported? The goal, again, it's important to remember, is creating economic development. So if there are no direct jobs created by the project, the case really needs to be made that this project is supporting economic development goals and how it's satisfied in other ways. So the project that you see on the screen here is a section of the mountain bike trails projects that NOHFC has supported in the past. So how does this support economic development when there's no one sort of working as a trail person per se? There's no trail job necessarily created. Well, certainly there's secondary job creation as a result of the building of these trails, but there are private sector businesses related to tourism and specifically in this case mountain biking that are likely to see increased business as a result of their proximity to these types of community assets. The tourism sector investments by communities are particularly advantageous in economic development as those private sector businesses are supported, hotels in the region are supported, your hospitality sector is supported, in addition to extended stays in our local hotels with the availability of more tourism products to participate in. Next slide, please. So community enhancement is a two-stage application. NOHFC is looking for shovel-ready projects with these applications. So it's important to be mindful of the timing. This is a prime example of why it's really important to engage with your Northern Development Advisor for any projects, whether it be with the Invest North stream of funding that Rob was describing or the Community Enhancement stream of funding. We are here to help guide you through the process and assess your level of readiness to both apply and address any shortcomings that your application may have before it goes to NOHFC. The initial stage 1 application to this program is meant to be a high-level overview of your plans in order to assess eligibility and alignment with the program. So similar to the Invest North program, once that application goes into NOHFC, NOHFC reviews it and determines whether or not it's considered potentially eligible. If it is, that's when you're invited to your second stage application. The second stage application within the community enhancement is effectively a business plan for your project. You're going to want to have your costs sorted out, permits in place, your plans very nearly ready to go. And that would be a very strong project to put before the NOHFC for funding decision. So the NOHFC role, the NDA role in community enhancement is to provide that support and that strategic advice to the clients. The types of things that you won't see supported by this program are those core infrastructure projects, sewers, roads, bridges, any administrative space. Now, a larger building that has a portion of administrative space could still potentially be an eligible project, but the administrative space component would have to be carved out. Certainly, any residential development is not eligible. Operating expenses, including anything that would be considered standard ongoing maintenance for a facility, would not be eligible. Standalone equipment and furniture purchases, and standalone studies, whether they be feasibility, strategic, or engineering, those types of things. Next slide, please. So I talked a little bit about this application process being two-stage and the role of our Northern Development Advisors to assist you. There is, when you log into the website, any program you're looking to apply to has the opportunity to download a version of the application so that you can organize your materials and your answers outside of the system before you look to copy and paste those in. But please connect with the Northern Development Advisor. There's no question too small. We are here to help, and we can very much increase your chances of success. Next slide, please. With that, I'll pass it over to my colleague, Taylor.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name's Taylor Wright. I'm also a Northern Development Advisor here in Sault Ste. Marie. I work 2 cubicles over from Christy and a handful over from Rob. So I'm going to go over the community events program that NOHFC has. So this particular program is designed to showcase the Northern Ontario culture, our geography, to raise the profile of Northern Ontario and to generate economic activity through tourism, or even the nature of the event, if it's economic development driven. That is the main goal of this program. Advance my own slides now. There we go. So for the community event stream, we have hosted and supported a variety of events within Algoma. So you can see some photos on your screen here. That's from the Go North Festival, St. Joe's Island. And so the intent of the program is to support brand new events. So perhaps it's a high risk initiative because it's a new event, it hasn't been proven. NOHFC will come in and support those events. The NOHFC will also support annual and recurring events that are looking to, improve, have incremental improvements, and kind of take it to the next level. So those are the main 2 scenarios where NOHFC will look at to fund an event. It's also important to note that this is a public sector stream. So we're looking at communities and nonprofits, Indigenous communities that are looking to host these events. So what is eligible? Like I mentioned, we're looking at new and recurring in-person or virtual community-based events that will attract tourists or raise the profile of Northern Ontario. For the annual or reoccurring events, you need to demonstrate in your application how the event is including new programming, how it is changing and evolving, if there are new elements, if you're increasing the budget. So if you are applying for an event that you host every year, it's really important to demonstrate how that event has changed or how you are improving it to try and generate more of that tourist attraction and bring in more of the economic development side of things. So you can see here, increased attendance, increasing the tourism expenditures. So by increasing your marketing efforts or expanding your reach, you're bringing in more tourists. Those are more local dollars being spent at hotels, restaurants, and retailers. And also raising the event profile and the quality. So, for example, the Go North Festival, first time they hosted it, smaller scale, and in future years, they're bringing in more artists or they're expanding to include longer duration of the concert, or maybe it'll be over 2 days. So each year you need to see those incremental improvements to the event. So for events, what is not eligible? So NOHFC will not fund the ongoing operational costs of the organization that hosts the events. So for example, regular staffing costs will not be covered, but if you need to hire somebody specifically for the event, that could be a potentially eligible cost. Also, NOHFC will not cover the cost of any of the participant travel, the alcohol, if there is alcohol, awards or gifts. Annual general or business meetings will not be supported through this program, as well as any other events or projects that are led by the private sector. And once again, tying back to those economic benefits, NOHFC is an economic development agency, so they need to see those economic benefits through the event. Also, they will not support events that have already occurred. I'll get a little bit more into that here with the program requirements. So applications for events need to be received by the NOHFC at minimum 16 weeks in advance of your event date. That's a hard deadline. That allows NOHFC enough time to receive the application, have it evaluated, reviewed again, and then brought to the board for consideration, and hopefully enough time for you to promote that event with NOHFC approval. The funding is in the form of a grant. It's up to 30% of total eligible cost to a maximum of $15,000. So if your event has $50,000 in eligible costs, you can max out with that $15K grant. And like I mentioned, applications for events that have already occurred will not be considered. And if any of those dollars were spent on any specific assets or equipment, if they're sold within the first 3 years after your project has occurred, NOHFC may require you to return those. That's consistent across most of their programs. If you're receiving funding for a piece of equipment or a specific asset, and then within a certain number of years, things change and you sell those assets, you may be required to return the money. Okay, so the last program I'm going to talk about is our film and television program. This program is a bit more of a niche program, I recognize that. So I don't have a lot of detailed information, but if there is anybody on this call that is in the film and television industry that would like to talk specifically about this program, my contact information will be at the end of the webinar. Please note it, and we can have a discussion. We can make an appointment and discuss the program. So this program is designed to increase film and television opportunities, jobs, and investments in Northern Ontario. It's, I think it's a relatively newer program for the NOHFC, and it certainly has evolved over the years to try and best meet the needs of the industry, because it is a very unique industry here in the North. So applications under film and television are evaluated in competitive rounds. So very similar to the private sector stream we discussed earlier, the GROW. The film and television stream follows that same pattern. There are 4 intake rounds each year, and it's a highly competitive program. So when you apply to this program with, you know, your television series, a documentary, a full feature film, whatever your project may be, your application is assessed and scored against the other applications that are applying in that round. And there are only a select few that are approved each round. So it's really important from a timing perspective to make sure you get the timing right for your application based on when you're looking to start your principal photography and your filming. So in terms of who is eligible under this program, it needs to be a Canadian production company that owns the rights to the film or series. And the potential level of support from NOHFC varies depending on what your total production budget will be. So for projects that are $5 million or less, you can access up to $500,000 of a grant from NOHFC. 5 to 10 million, you're looking at up to $1 million. And 10 million and above, you could get up to $2 million to support your project. The films that have been approved by NOHFC typically have very large economic benefits for Northern Ontario. So again, often I speak with clients and they say, you know, my project has a strong heritage or cultural essence to it, but at the end of the day, the NOHFC is an economic development agency. So they want to see job creation. They want to see most of the work being procured in Northern Ontario. They want to see the benefits stay here. So those projects that prioritize hiring Northern Ontario cast, crew, all supporting roles, those tend to be the ones that are supported with this grant. Going to move along here. So Christy and Rob have touched on how to apply to the NOHFC, but I wanted to kind of go over some of those key points again and provide some advice for when you do decide, if you do decide to apply to the NOHFC. So the first thing is to get in touch with the Northern Development Advisor. So we have a team here. There are 5 staff here in our Sault Ste. Marie office, and then we have another advisor based out of Wawa and another advisor based out of Blind River. And we are here to help you understand not only the NOHFC's programs, but other potential programs that could be a good fit for your project. So that to say, if you come to us and NOHFC isn't the right fit, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't find something else that is a better fit for you. So with the NOHFC, there is the online portal. So you log on to their website, nohfc.ca, and you can create a profile on the website. And from the portal, you will see all the different programs that are available for you to apply to. So depending on which program you're applying to, there could be a 2-stage process or a single-stage process. Our advice is, even before submitting a stage 1, it's a good idea to engage with us because we can help advise, you know, maybe you're applying to the wrong program, or maybe there's certain things you should highlight that, you know, will align better with the mandate of the NOHFC. So we can certainly help guide you through all aspects of the application process, but the earlier you can engage with us, the better. So once you apply online to the NOHFC, the way it works, again, depending on your program, sometimes you will work directly with an advisor on a stage 2 application. So we'll help you gather all the necessary supplementary documents. So for example, if you're applying to one of the private sector streams, you'll be required to provide things like financial statements, financial forecasts, ownership information, and corporation documents. So we help you to identify and compile all of those supporting documents, as well as review your business plan and make sure that it's transferable to the actual stage 2 application document. And sometimes when you're dealing with the community enhancement program, when it's the public sector, there are certain ways to phrase or highlight aspects of your project that we understand align best with the mandate of the NOHFC. So we can assist with some of that grant writing skill set that, you know, maybe not everybody can understand how their project directly translates and aligns with a government program. So we're there to assist you with that. I have here on the last slide our contact information. So again, my name's Taylor Wright. Also Christy and Rob here, happy to support you and get to know you and learn more about your businesses and projects. And we look forward to any questions that you have and any future discussions. You are more than welcome to reach out to us directly by phone or email. And with that, I will close off and let Bob and Dawn moderate the questions here.
Okay, well, thank you so much for all the information that we've received so far. And we're going to take a point to, we'll go through, and as for anybody that didn't hear it at the beginning, if you have questions, please put them into the chat. And if you can, maybe reference what stream specifically your question is about. It might help us direct the question. I have one right off the bat, maybe. In terms of applications, what are the most common mistakes or gaps that you see applicants making when they fill out applications? Are they just not bringing enough info to the table? Or, is it sometimes too vague, or do you really look for stuff do you look for as much specificity as possible when they're filling in the applications for some of these streams?
Are we raising hands or can I just go?
Go for it.
Rob.
Go for it,
Go,
Rob.
Rob.
I'll speak to the private sector side specifically. A lot of times they're lacking a couple things to really demonstrate how the project is an expansion. For instance, I shouldn't say accurate, but like conservative financial forecasting for 3 to 5 years out, after a project's approved. That's important. As well as, do you have purchasers in place? Or maybe that's the wrong term, but if you're a larger company and say, for instance, you're a small medium-sized manufacturer, do you have a target that you're going to sell to? And do you have anything, like any indication, maybe even anything in writing, that if you're going to provide this new manufacturing service or product, do you have a buyer in place? That needs to be demonstrated, because there might not be competition in Northern Ontario. That's what makes you eligible, but there's still competition elsewhere. And you have to demonstrate that you're going to fill a gap for services and products in Northern Ontario.
So really
Just to add on, sorry,
just really being able to forecast out then.
Forecast out, yeah.
Yeah.
and Don, just to add to what Rob was saying, we have a colleague that retired last year, and she was rather famous for saying, "Where's the evidence?" So it's all good and fine to make some assertions as to what you expect the benefits of your plan to be, and what you expect the results of your project to provide in terms of benefit to the community or your business. But wherever possible, you need to support those statements with evidence. So whether it's, as Rob was saying, POs or client agreements, if you're a manufacturer, if you're a tourism resort operator, or an event host, what the tourism impact, and there's financial models available through the Ministry of Finance to help support those types of things. When you're doing your competitive analysis, be comprehensive. Don't sort of hold back, because our due diligence, both internally and with Deloitte, will be comprehensive. So if the evidence that our evaluators turn up does not support your assertions, it's really of no benefit to you to not have that all worked out in advance. As far as the early stage goes, of the initial stage of application, Don, what you were talking about, really just be ready, I would say. The stage 1 application for any of the funding streams should not be sort of at your initial stages of planning for your business or your project. You need to be a bit further down the line in terms of your plans to execute this project before you apply to NOHFC. But those are conversations and sort of roadblocks in the initial stages that are very easily addressed through a direct conversation with Robert Taylor and myself.
Okay, we've got some hands up here. Robert, did you want to add something on there?
Sorry, that was a mistake.
Okay.
Actually, I do now. I just lost my train of thought. I'll get back to it.
Okay, you know what?
Do with private sector.
Bob has his hand up over here too. Bob, did you have something you needed to?
I actually had a question.
Yeah.
One of them, I can't remember where it was, festivals or community events. Ineligible events are annual general meetings. And of course, so like the chamber does their AGM every year. Obviously, we can't get funding for that. But if we were to put a bid in for, say, the Ontario Chamber to have their AGM and convention in Sault Ste. Marie, which could be anywhere from 100 to 300, hotel rooms, is that something that's eligible, or is it just like from the tourism aspect?
That one is a tricky one. It would probably warrant me checking with NOHFC because it's still an AGM with your overarching group. So I'm not sure if that would be eligible. I do see what you mean about the tourism draw, and it is one of those events that move from location to location each year.
Yeah.
The
I was just curious.
does now would it be open and available to anybody to attend? Or would it only be chamber staff?
Anybody can attend, but there is a fee. I mean, you have to pay to attend. But yeah, I think anybody can, other than there's certain aspects of it you can't, like the policy resolution debates and whatnot. But no, I was just curious, that's all. Maybe I'll check with you down the road. We did put a bid in this year for one, and we lost to Guelph, but we were working closely with the city, and it didn't even cross my mind to reach out to NOHFC because there are costs involved on our end. But so I was just curious. That's all.
I think if you paired the AGM component with something else, that maybe the NOHFC could consider funding elements of it. I don't think they would fund anything related to the AGM itself, but if it was paired for another component, say workshops or guest speakers that weren't necessarily tied to the AGM, then maybe there could be a fit.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, we have another hand up here, but before I get to Bill, I'm just going to jump over to the chat here because this was a really good question for clarification. Now, it has been answered in the chat, but the question was to clarify in regards to people and talent. You are unable to get funding to hire for a new position unless you currently have someone on your payroll. And yes, Taylor, you answered that. And it is good information to have. Yes, your organization has to be operating for a minimum of 1 year and have at least one full-time employee in order to be eligible for people and talents. So just a point of clarification there for that particular funding stream. Well, I guess we'll just go with we'll invite people to come on mic with questions if that's okay with the team. We've got a question here from Bill. Bill, did you want to go ahead? You had your hand up. And if you can let us know what sector you're in.
I think you have to unmute him, John. I don't think he has the option to.
Let's see here. There we go, Bill. You should be able to
there we go.
Jump in.
Thank you, folks. Yeah, I got two questions. So as far as the one employee for people and talent, does that include myself? Or do I have to have somebody employed other than myself to qualify for that one employee?
As long as you are working in your business on a full-time basis, that would include you.
Okay, now I'm sorry, I got one other question, a little bit more important actually.
No worries.
I've been struggling for a couple of years to try and find the right skill set as a sales rep for my business. And so like in my case, the sales rep the payroll would look a little bit like a constant paycheck plus commission. Mm-hmm. Would that qualify under the people and talent program? And another thing, because I've been struggling because the pool of talent is so small from what I've seen, and to be losing a 90% or to lose that 90% payroll help down to 50% between Indigenous and non-Indigenous, it kind of limits that pool of who I've got to work with. Not to say that I can't work with 50%. I'm just saying it's a bit of a bummer that I could get 90% for such a small pool and 50% for such a larger pool, and having a hard time to with it all to start with.
So, Bill, are you a for-profit business?
Yes.
Okay, so your numbers are you're mixing up the public sector versus private sector. So as a for-profit business in the regular workforce development stream, you'd be eligible for 50% funding of salary for your intern on a full-time basis for 1 year up to $35,000. So the commission portion of the payroll would not be eligible for reimbursement, but the salary portion would. At that 50% rate up to $35,000. Now, if you had a position that you expect you can recruit an Indigenous candidate for, if you apply for that same position to the Indigenous workforce development stream, you have access to additional funding. So instead of 50%, you'd be eligible for 75% funding for that salary, up to $52,500. So you do have access to either. It just depends on who you're looking to recruit for the position. If you feel like you would potentially be able to recruit an Indigenous candidate to fill the role, you would have access to additional funding through that stream.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. Thanks a million.
We had another question that came in on the chat, and really a good question. For the community enhancement stream, can you talk about applications with multiple stakeholders? I have a little bit of experience with this, right, Taylor? For example, municipality plus nonprofit plus tribal organization. Should only one entity be the primary applicant, or are joint applications possible? So the response was joint applications are allowed and are relatively common. Depending on the specific case or project, you could either have a lead applicant that would apply to NOHFC or a joint application. Did you want to throw any other notes out there about that, or did that pretty much cover it? Or do you have anything else that could add to that?
I think it would depend on the nature of the project and what that partnership looks like. So we've had instances where we have a nonprofit that leases space and maybe isn't in a financial position to cover all of the required costs or the cost overruns. So we'll have a joint application with whoever owns the building or the asset, if that's required. Trying to think of other examples where we've had joint applications. So sometimes we'll have a project where a nonprofit is leading the project, but a municipality is providing funding towards that project. And it's just cleaner if they are co-applicants. So we have both entities' information available with the application, and both entities are informed when decisions are made about the project. Holly, did you have any follow-up questions? Oh, I guess she won't be able to unmute.
Holly, I think I've got you here. Holly, did you have any follow-up questions? I've given you the ability there to unmute if you want.
Oh, she responded here in the chat.
Oh.
She is good to go.
Yeah. We have a hand up here, and I'm sorry, is it Young Sub on or on Young Sub? I'll give you the opportunity here to jump in there. You had your hand up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, it's actually Karen. That's just
hi,
our
Karen.
IT guy. Yeah, hi. So I'm coming from, I guess, a nonprofit perspective. I just want to piggyback on that question that I had originally. We're coming up 10 years next year for the Twinkie Foundation, and we tried really hard not to have wages, just to be able to give funds back to the community as opposed to a salaries and wages perspective. So I understand that, to be able to hire something and get funding through through the program, I guess you would need to have someone else on your payroll. But I guess I'm just curious, why would that be? I understand that's the parameter. I guess I'm just curious as to why.
So this program is designed to provide supervised work experience. So the requirement for there to be one other individual working for the organization is to provide that supervision. So the organization would be led presumably by yourself, or if you have an executive director as an example, and then the internship position that you'd be hiring would require access to direct full-time supervision in order to develop that skill set.
Okay, that makes sense. So even if I were noted as executive director and could train this person, even though I'm not paying myself, I still couldn't do it?
No, you could, as long
Okay.
as, you're working in a full-time capacity for the organization. If you elect as an owner not to draw salary for yourself, potentially you still could have access to an internship, so long as you can provide that full-time support. It's just going to depend a little bit. It's worth a conversation, certainly.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll throw in another question here. For any of the streams, if there is if you're turned down for any of the streams, is there an opportunity there for reapplication? Like, do you get a do-over, or do you get, if you get turned down, is there an opportunity there to resubmit? Or is it basically it's a case closed at that point?
There is an appeal process. So there is the opportunity to appeal a decision, whether it's at eligibility or at the board level. It is important to note, however, that if you do plan to appeal a decision, you cannot approach the NOHFC with the exact same business case project. There has to be new information or a new element that addresses what the shortcomings were as identified in the decline letter. So typically, if you are declined at eligibility, NOHFC will very clearly state out those reasons in a letter that you would receive. So if you're going to appeal that decision, you can't submit the same thing. That it won't go anywhere. But if there's more information you've gathered from the time you've applied to the time you've gotten your decision that would change something, you feel that could change something, then you can appeal the decision. For the board and committee decisions, those, again, when you receive your decline letter, they typically give you an explanation for why it was declined. A lot of the times it is just because the program is oversubscribed and there were projects that had better alignment. There are limited dollars to go around. So typically, if there is a shortcoming or a gap in your application, NOHFC will identify it. So there could be an opportunity to address it. Sometimes there isn't. So it does depend on the project. It's a case-by-case matter.
Okay. And I'm going to circle back around to the community event stream, because we do see a lot of events in our community, and it's good to know that that kind of support is there through NOHFC. We may have community events that maybe have never considered looking at funding through NOHFC for support. Is there weight distribution given to, when we talked about it, you mentioned, of course, NOHFC is an economic development driver. So is there a certain weight given to, say, creating tourism opportunities for the communities that those events are in? Or let's say it's going to be an event that is not necessarily going to drive a lot of tourism dollars, but it's going to create a lot of jobs, or has potential to create a lot of jobs. Is there, can one kind of counter the other? Or is there a scoring mechanism that's used, that you really gotta find that way to include, say, the tourism aspect of it?
I would say, so there is no grading or scoring with the events program. It's not a competitive program. I would go back to something Christy said earlier, which is show us the evidence. So to give you an example, there is a model available through the Ministry of Tourism. It's called the TREAM model, Tourism Regional Economic Impact Model. So what I would say is applicants that are applying to the event stream, provide the detail and provide the evidence to demonstrate why your event is going to drive tourism, have a positive economic impact. Provide those reports, provide that data. If you've hosted this event in the past, provide the attendance numbers, provide whatever information that you can provide, the evidence that you can provide to demonstrate to the NOHFC why an investment is going to be beneficial for this event. So when we're looking, we don't make the decisions here. It's the NOHFC committee that makes these decisions. When they're looking at a handful of event applications, they're going to go with the applications that have the most favorable evaluation. And those evaluations are based on evidence, alignment. Really, it's the applicants that put the effort into providing a strong case for their event. So I don't know if that answers your question. There isn't a single factor that's considered over another, more or less, but having the evidence to back up where your impacts are going to be is important. So we often work with our clients and suggest they run a TREAM model, the Tourism Regional Economic Impact Model. You can Google it. It comes right up and it's super easy to use. It'll tell you, you have this number of tourists anticipated, your event is this many days long, what is the estimated economic impact for your community? So it's a great model to use.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat that we have. Oh, wait a minute. We actually just had a question about HVAC, and I'll just run through that one because I see the answer just went in. Would an HVAC company looking to hire a fresh intern, say a recent HVAC college grad, qualify? How about a nonprofit looking to hire an executive assistant? And the answer, of course, was yes, both of these scenarios are eligible. People and Talent has an apprenticeship stream as well with second-year eligibility. An exec assistant would be a common example as well for a non-for-profit organization. So thank you very much for that question, Eric. I'm going to run through our participants here, and if anybody has any other questions, please just put your hand up and we'll get to you. But in the meantime, I do have a question here as we get ready to wrap up. Can you share any recent success story that really illustrates the impact of NOHFC funding? Anybody, do you want to share any success stories?
Well, we're only able to share announced projects. Recent, it may not be the most recent, but across our streams of funding, there's many success stories. As I mentioned with the People and Talent program, it's a very accessible program, broad range of applicants, over 100 internships supported last year alone in the Algoma region through that program. In our private sector programs, Taylor, I believe you did a bit of, pulled a couple of good examples. Can I turn it over to you for our private sector?
Yeah, for sure. So one great project that sticks out in my mind because it was the first project I had when I started in this role. So it had a good impact, a big impact on me. There was a small business, tool repair business here in Sault Ste. Marie. It was a one-man operation, young guy, entrepreneur. He was leasing a small space and wanted to expand his business. I encouraged him to apply to the growth stream. It took months and months to collect all the information and work through several iterations of the application, working with Millworks to develop and strengthen his business plan, work on his financial forecasting, and all that to say he was successful in receiving the funding. He built he has a brand new operation on land that he had purchased, and NOHFC supported the construction of the building and acquisition of the equipment that he needed. So now he has a complement of staff working with him. He's had several interns that he has trained, and he's really expanded his service opportunities. He's brought in a lot of new business here in Sault Ste. Marie. So that was Wallowitch Tool Repair, a very small company that really benefited from this program. Some other examples, larger in scale, we have Twin Mechanical out in Gooley River. They were successful recipients of NOHFC funding to expand their service offerings and some of their capital infrastructure out on Highway 17 North. That's another good success story. And also Norquay Truss. Norquay built and is operating a truss plant as well as prefabricated wall plant. So those projects were supported with NOHFC funding as well to help them penetrate into that market, that new building market, where we're seeing a lot of building materials being, I don't know what the right word is here. Help me out, Rob. Not so much modular, but these prefabricated systems. So you're seeing the wall panels now with insulation and a lot of the components built all into one. So it's really expedited the construction process.
Awesome. Bob, I see you have your hand up, and we do have one question actually in the chat that we did overlook. I apologize to Jude. Jude had a quick question. A business that processes commodity, but not a farm, in Sault Ste. Marie, like potatoes, and distribute to restaurant and food vendors, would they be eligible for any type of funding opportunities?
I can take a shot at that one. If it's business to business, potentially, we'd have to discuss that further, depending, what you're looking at in terms of expansion. If it's some sort of processing equipment or something to allow you to expand your market share as well, that's more of a unique question, but not necessarily ineligible. So that's something, I'd want to discuss further.
Okay, well, there you go. Jude, please feel free to reach out to the team at NOHFC for that. And Bob, you have your hands up here. Did you want to wrap up with the questions or anything you might have to add?
I'm gonna just cut in here before Bob goes. Sure. I'm sharing here on my screen a more comprehensive list of what's not eligible for business. So what's on the website is just kind of the short list, the most common list. If you download the full program guidelines, there is a more comprehensive list. So with respect to Jude's question, I was going to ask if it was wholesale, if it's a primarily wholesale type business, that does fall into what is not eligible. But if it is business to business directly, then like Rob said, it's worth a conversation.
Okay, I've allowed Jude opportunity there. I've turned their mic on. If there is anything you want to add. And not hearing anything. Bob, did you want to go ahead?
Sure. I didn't really have a question. I was just going to just let everyone know. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bob Burns. I'm the CEO at the Chamber of Commerce, and the Chamber believes in the NOHFC heavily. We have utilized their programs numerous times over the last 10 years to great success. And the biggest reason we believe so heavily in them is because of the personalized attention. We're not jumping through hoops. We're not waiting on call or on hold. We have advisors right here in Sault Ste. Marie we can reach out to. They freely give out their number, their emails, and they'll guide you through every step of the process. And there's not an easier funding mechanism out there that I know of. The NOHFC is hands down the easiest one to navigate and do, and that's why we believe so heavily in it. So don't hesitate in tapping into these advisors, because they are here to help, as they say. So I just wanted to add that. So that's it.
Yeah, and I'll add to that as well that I asked a question there a little while ago about do-overs and being turned down. If you're connecting with your NOHFC reps, hopefully it never gets to that point. Hopefully they're able to get you where you need to be in terms of the submission that you're putting in. Bill, I see your hand went up. I'm going to give you the last word before I close, sir.
Well, thank you, everyone. Sorry for bugging you again with this question, but the business is primarily involved in wholesale activities. I am primarily wholesale, business to business. Less than 10% of my business goes to consumer. Does that mean I'm not qualified, or does it mean it? Or does that mean it deserves another conversation? Because I'm confused. Like I say, I'm primarily business to business, and I need help. So can I turn to you guys?
I think it's worth us having a conversation maybe offline, Bill. Why don't you take down, if you haven't taken our contact information down, I'm going to put it in the chat, and feel free to contact one of us, and we can discuss your business specifically and whether it could be a fit for NOHFC.
Yeah. But Bill, you're speaking
Thank you.
primarily towards hiring staff, though, like the People and Talent Program.
Well, yeah, I got two primary needs. Staff, I need sales support, and I could use some equipment. My business is Stuff Lubricants. I'm out on St. Joanne. I've in the last couple of months, I've given up my full-time day job to do this full-time. So I'm really pushing hard right now, and I need some help to grow. And these are the two immediate needs. But like I say, I'm primarily business to business. Most of my product goes out in drums, not in aerosol cans. So yeah. Well, thank you for the contact information. I will certainly be calling one of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, please do, Bill. The types of wholesale operations that are typically ineligible would be ones where there's no sort of product production involved. So it sounds like you likely have some production of your products and packaging for distribution to a wholesale market. So you may be a good candidate. So definitely please reach out.
All right.
Manufacturing is a good fit.
That's some potential good news. All right. Thank you
much
again to our presenters from the Ministry of Northern and Economic Development and Growth for sharing their time and expertise with us today, and to all of you for joining us and engaging in this discussion. As we've heard, the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation continues to be a vital partner in building strong, resilient communities across the North. The programs highlighted here today represent real opportunities for businesses looking to grow, for communities investing in infrastructure, and for organizations working to strengthen our regional economy. I would encourage everyone on the call to take what you've learned today and explore how these programs might support your own projects and initiatives. And if you're not sure where to start, please don't hesitate to reach out, whether to the ministry, the NOHFC team, or to us here at the Chamber. We're here to help connect you with the right resources. So on behalf of the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce, thank you again for being with us today. We look forward to continuing to support your success and seeing the impact that these investments make across our community. Have a great day, everyone.